So hello and welcome to the Alpha Artist Interview Series, bringing fine art into your home. I'm Renata Thom, your host for today's webinar and a co-founder of Alpha, the B2B crowdsourced and purpose-driven art platform. This initiative highlights some of the most amazing art on our platform and is designed to enlighten and inform both artists and collectors who can benefit from collaborating with us. So today for our first interview, we have Rah Crawford. Rah, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here. Rah, can you tell us where you're spending your quarantine days and how is this crazy pandemic phase going for you?
Sure. I'm spending my quarantine days at home. Fortunately, I have all the tools that I need at home.
Where is home?
It's in Brooklyn, New York.
In Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, it's in Brooklyn. So I'm here, I have my art studio here. I have my computer station, my audio set up for making sound. So I have everything that I need here. So I'm spending most of it. I actually have a backyard, with a nice little garden that my wife made out back. So that's nice too. So we're doing all right. Kind of hunkered down here and, still creating and still making things. And I think, as an artist, for me personally, I can't speak for anyone else, but I'm kind of used to being with myself and creating alone in my own space. So it seems pretty normal. I guess the strange thing is everybody else is doing that too. So that's what's a bit different. But it's,
So now we know what it is like to be an artist, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, so it's pretty cool. So I'm still creating and still making things. So it's good.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. And can you talk a little bit about your art and maybe your background as an artist? Like how did you get to being like the artist that you are today?
Sure. I would say it's definitely from being stubborn. I would say, on my end, I went to high school and I always made art in school, and I got a scholarship, actually a 4-year scholarship to Art University, and I turned it down. And the reason why I turned it down is because I was just really stubborn. I didn't want anyone to teach me how to make art. And I had this kind of internal desire to just find my way. There's something I wanted to say, and I wanted to find out what that voice was. And I didn't want anyone to instruct me on how to get there. I thought it was a personal thing between me and my work. And so because of that, I rejected the scholarship. And so I went on my own course of self-learning. And that's kind of how I stumbled, into it. In my work specifically, I work with, kind of like images and then using words within the images that actually have meaning. So once you look up the word or figure out what the definition of the word, it adds like a new contextual layer to the image that you're seeing. And so I felt like I would have never have discovered that, or kind of, by trial and error, figured out the different artistic styles if someone would have taught me and instructed me. So for me personally, it worked out.
It sounds wonderful. And I did find a very interesting quote on your website that says that arts were originally birthed from a human spirit, and my mission is to create work connected to that original source. So to fall in love again through inspiration. Without inspiration, there is no creation, no muse, no art. Can you comment on that and talk a little bit more about your source of inspiration or different sources of inspiration?
Absolutely. I believe in intuition. And it's one of those things that, it's kind of going back to what I originally said, my personal path. I think no one can tell you, to be truly an artist, defining of the word is, I feel like an artist is connected to that inner voice. And in that inner voice, there's some kind of narrative that we're trying to convey, or something we're trying to figure out within ourselves, or if you're a social observer, to a larger framework of society. And no one can tell you about that. It can't be taught to you, can't be instructed. You have to actually kind of connect to your inner voice. And so that's the part, like the muses. I believe in the muses. I believe in those, unseen forces that give you ideas or give you visions. I believe in those 100%. And so I live my life in a way where the muses can whisper, things into my ear. And sometimes it can be a bit of a challenge, if it's about 3 a.m. and all of a sudden you wake up with an idea. I think you have to get up and follow through with that idea. And I'm very obedient in that way. So the muses, I feel like they bless me with ideas and voices and different things and guide my work and my hand and what I do. So yeah, I hope that explains it. Hello, you guys still hear me? Can you still hear me? Not sure if you can still hear me.
Yes, I can
Okay.
hear.
Okay, great.
Okay, we can hear you.
Okay.
I think everyone else, please just like stay muted for now. And thank you for your cooperation. So Rah, you mentioned that sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night and you go work on your idea, that like creativity like happens like in like random moments. Can you talk a little bit more about your creative process and maybe describe a little bit more in depth, like maybe like an artwork that was important in your trajectory?
Yes. As far as the process, yes, I definitely move on inspiration because I believe if for me, moving on inspiration makes my work true in a sense. And I believe if those times when I don't necessarily move on inspiration, then you're kind of, for me, I'm questioning things a lot for a completed piece. Oh, was that the right color? Did I make the right decision on that? Should I have done it that way? But I believe when I personally move with inspiration, then it's very clear. You can't doubt it. You can't question it. That's what you were truly moved to do. So I think that speaks to the inspiration part. And as far as artists on the technical ability and skill set, I always like to challenge myself. So I think if you look back at the body of my work, I started off, as an illustrator, just pencil and paper drawing. And then from that, I kind of graduated to acrylics, and I had a period where I was just painting with acrylics. And then from that, I just started exploring oil paints. And I wanted to, just get my sense of mastery for oil paintings. And then from that, I've been doing a lot more digital work, meaning transferring those illustrations into digital art and creating, digital art, which has been really exciting as well. And each of those processes they each have their own challenge and obstacles. And I'd love to learn. I'm a self-learner, and I always love learning. So I love the creative process when I'm challenged and I have to learn something new. That's exciting to me, and that keeps being an artist and creating inspiring to me. So that's, and I would say I did a series or body of work called my Masterpiece Collection and so my goal was to create, like fine oil paintings like I would see in a museum, and I would just absolutely love them, Michelangelo type pieces. And so I think when I first started I felt like getting a point where I could some sense of mastery over my oil paintings, and I really liked what was happening. That kind of work really excited me, and a lot of that stuff's on my website. Doing those. As well as the digital now. So I'm making crypto art and the idea of this technology of the future and digital art and digital scarcity, the idea that you can actually purchase a digital art or a digital file, that's exciting as well. So I've been exploring that type of work now. So yeah, I just like to stay inspired, listen to the muses, adopt new technologies and new forms and keep myself challenged and keep pushing forward.
Amazing. Yeah. And you talk a lot about technology, and I think technology sometimes like it's not the obvious correlation when we think about an artist. So now that everything is changing for us and we're all being forced to think more about technological tools to allow us to stay connected, like right now, can you talk a little bit more about the future for your work and maybe the future for the art market, like in a more general way, like, and maybe like where do you see some of those technological tools going, like, and maybe helping us continue developing our works or your work in that case?
Okay, sure, absolutely. Technology is here, and it's the new evolution that we as humankind are evolving into technology, and especially COVID. COVID has ramped up our need for borderless collaboration, and technology is allowing us to do that. Just how here we are now having this interview and conversation. using technology to do that, and we're doing it because of the pandemic. So I would say from an artistic perspective and just like as a social observer, I think this pandemic is playing, a major role. I mean, say for the first time in history, like the world is really synced, like we're connected. We're all having the same experience at the same time, and we're all aware of that. And so we're connected with on another deep layer. And I think that's significant. And I think that's going to play out in many ways. I'm an optimist, so I think it's going to play out in positive ways. I feel like as a planet, like we're all taking the first step together, like we know what's happening, I'm in Italy, and in Africa, and Germany, and Russia, and Spain, all over in the U.S. and different parts of the U.S. as we all kind of roll out and try to get back to some sense of normalcy in our lives. And so we're synced up. So there's like there's a humankind, brother and sisterhood that's happening right now. And so I think technology helps us to connect in those different ways, to understand and be more empathetic, because we can see what's happening on the ground in other countries and other areas. And so I think we're connected in that way. And with that, as an artist, I think that meeting the people where they are is very important. And I think with that, it's like having technology that shows up in those spaces and places. And one of the things is you have virtual worlds that are becoming a lot more popular, and people who purchase digital art are they're exhibiting their work in digital galleries and digital museums. And I think that digital art showing up in those spaces is the kind of thing that's happening right now. And so for me personally, as an artist, I want to create and be in that space and kind of see where is popular culture right now? What are the trends? What are we thinking? What are we feeling? Because I think in that, we try to answer questions about our own selves in some kind of way. And the type of work that I do, I like to have an eyeball and an ear in those places and spaces and listen to question. And those are the kind of things that inspire me.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Rah has a couple of amazing artworks on our platform. This is one of them, and you can find more like on the Alpha's platform or directly to Rah's website. Rah, now just to end, we have a couple of quick answer questions, and you said you're an optimist, which is fantastic. Is there a book or maybe a movie or a TV series, something that you've been using to keep your spirit high, which you would recommend that like our guests or like viewers do too, like or experiment with too?
Yes, so two. So for a really quick read, there's a book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Not to be confused with The Art of War by Sun Tzu. That's a different book. But this is called the War of Art. And that is by Stephen Pressfield. It's a short paperback, but it really drives to the point of what it means to be not just a creative, but an individual who has a sense of like this task or sense of accomplishment that they want to do or complete, and the things that push against us and keep us from doing that. So it's a really great book, and that book changed my life. Again, it's a short paperback. And it really hit home and resonated. It's like, an aunt or an uncle who you really love and who knows you very well, and they're just kind of really talking to you and telling you things how they are. So it's really inspiring. So that, and another one, I recently just today finished reading the autobiography of Nelson Mandela, and that's the opposite. Yeah, it's a really long book, but it's really inspiring, and to see his sense of conviction through adversity. And his optimism, unwavering optimism throughout his entire life. And that was really inspiring. So those two books, one short and one not so
amazing.
Short.
Yeah. I'm buying both. Well, thank you so much, Rah. It has been a pleasure speaking with you, like always. And I'm sure people enjoyed our conversation as well. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.